Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Bhutang dhammang sanghang namasami. So this is Sutta class number 8, Vasa 2022. And this theme today is the second and third of the themes for mindfulness meditation, Satipatthana, Vedana and Chittanupassana, feelings and states of mind, if you like. And especially the feelings is a very, well, they're all very important, but I would say feelings is one of probably the most important one. It's sort of between body awareness and states of mind. So if you can see the interrelationship, I mean, basically it's the feelings that trigger off states of mind. And bodily sensations, I mean, some people, depends upon your type of identifying with the body or with feelings or with states of mind, what is most meaningful for you. But at least the bodily sensations are much more generally noticeable than feelings. Did you try to observe feelings before in part of your homework last week? Did you notice what feelings are? What is a feeling? It's quite subtle, huh? Much more subtle than sensation, sense of touch. And it's sort of fortuitous in a way too, because last week I mentioned about trying to observe your intentions. What are the intentions behind your activities? Anybody got any ideas? Anyway, the intentions are very personalized. They're very subjective anyway, at the personal level, but at a very primal level, all intentions go back to feeling. If I was to explain, the main motivation or intention of human beings in a very, very simple phrase, our intention is to chase after and hold on to pleasant feeling, to avoid and get away from unpleasant feeling, and just be confused and not worry about neutral feeling. That's human beings in a nutshell.
Is that a kind of attachment?
That's part of it, yeah. The feelings are so primal to our existence, then that we have them all the time. So they're they're like instincts that drive us. And because we have these feelings all the time, and if you remember what I said last year, which is a long time ago, if your Sanya is still working, about the perceptual process. First, there is Vinyan, this bare knowing. The very next one is feeling. And then Sanya, perception, or you can say recognizing, giving things a label. But Vinyan, the bare knowing, is just very, very neutral. It just registers what's there. Sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. It doesn't even know what it's seeing or hearing, just knows something's there, sight. And then automatically feeling's there. Now that level of feeling is more like attraction, repulsion, or relax. very, very instinctual. Is it something to get away from, or is it something to go towards? But even though you don't know what it is yet, it hasn't got a label on it yet, not sanya yet, hasn't got a label, it's just basic instinct. Run or stop. You probably notice this, I mean, I don't know, probably most people who stay here for a while, you walk up to the sala, we all have snake consciousness, right? Yeah. 4 o'clock in the morning, you're walking up the path there and you see it's a black thing across the road. Yeah. What's your first reaction? Unpleasant feeling? Automatic, eh? Before you even recognize, oh, just a stick. Before you even recognize it as a snake, right? First thing, just before any kind of recognition comes in, you see. There is a knowing, the seeing, the bare knowing, seeing something, form and shape. Then there's feeling. It's pleasant, it's unpleasant, get away from it, or just neutral. And then sanya comes in. What is it? Oh, it's a stick. Or if it's a snake, you keep running. Of course, you go up to the sala, so you got to run and jump over it and get to the sala in time for puja. Or find a new route, longer route anyway. So in this theme for mindfulness practice, Buddha mentions first of all the three main feelings, and again we got a little bit of a translation problem, because when most people in English you hear feeling, usually we think of emotion. This is not emotion. Emotion is a state of mind. Feeling is just, I usually translate as feeling tone, general tone of your emotion. Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. You know, maybe it's better sometime to translate it that way, you know, or you can say something even more unusual to get you to think, what is the affective tone of your experience? You know, affect means emotion. What's the affective tone of your experience? Not feeling, not how you're feeling, but because a lot of us, you know, feeling is something very personal, isn't it? I want to feel good, you know, but just try to observe objectively what is the basic underlying feeling there, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. To get to the very, very root of what motivates us. And then when maybe sometimes if your mind is somewhat calm anyway, you might notice when there is a pleasant feeling, then you may notice, oh, liking, wanting, you know, then it becomes a state of mind, desire and greed, or vice versa. You know, if it's unpleasant feeling, aversion, anger, you know, that stick you saw as a snake, get angry at it and go up there and kick it. You frighten me. You know. That's anybody's story?
I don't dare to kick it.
But in this theme the Buddha gives, he also gives three more types of feeling, distinguishing between the worldly feelings and the unworldly, or spiritual feelings, if you like. Because the Buddha had a very, very unique approach to feelings. See, in India at the time of the Buddha, most people understood, most religious practitioners, maybe even the average person, that, you know, pleasant feeling was to be avoided, especially in spiritual practice. Pleasant feeling is addictive, see. It's very, very attractive and addictive and causes grasping and craving and, you know, attachment and all these things, so it's evil. Okay? And the unpleasant feeling, it was actually kind of good because it showed that you were burning off your bad, the results of your bad karma. You're burning it away, you see. That's why self-mortification was so popular, would I say? So common in the Buddhist time. Because the religious ascetics, they believed, oh, it's good to have self-mortification because you're purifying yourself. You're mortifying the flesh, you're purifying your being, you see. And this belief still persists today, I think. Not quite so popular today, but But some ascetics, they still do, they fast and they go without sleep. They do some kind of hard practice, some kind of ascetic practice. The Dhutangas are not supposed to be self-mortification, they're moderation. Trying to moderate your normal comfort zone, your normal comforts, you see. So they're just like simplifying life. Not having supper in the evening is not self-mortification, even though it may feel like it sometimes. So when the Buddha followed this regime in India at the time, went through all the ascetic practices, very, very extreme, they say, until he collapsed and fainted. Then he thought, this isn't working. I can say in some ways the Buddha was a very unique individual. He wasn't just a follower. He wasn't just a sycophant following along. He followed the tradition first, but he still was his own person. He was reflecting. Is this working? What's the way to awakening? What's the way to awakening? See? So he followed the other teachers, his teachers, and then he got to the end of it. But he still had his own view of things. This isn't working, even though most of the teachers said, "Oh, just keep self-mortifying yourself, and you'll be enlightened eventually." He said, "This isn't working. I don't believe you guys. It doesn't work." So he thought maybe there's another way. So then he remembered when he was a young child, and he was, I guess he was left alone under a tree somewhere, when his father was doing the plowing festival or something, and while he was under the tree as a young child, he dropped into jhana, deep absorption, which happens sometimes to young children with no worries in the world. Anybody remember something like that happening? At least moments of very peaceful mind when you had no worries and you're well fed and you're warm and you really felt comfortable. And you remember that?
I never sit still when such things.
Well, anyway, some people have that. I wouldn't say maybe it's not jhana for everybody, but it was for the Buddha. So then he reflected that, actually this kind of peace and tranquility of mind is not dangerous, because it's not not related to sensual desire. Didn't want anything, just relaxing, really. No sensual desire or no unskillful states of mind either. So maybe this is the way. Yeah. So then he remembered his first teachers. His first teachers taught him meditation, to very, very advanced levels of meditation. And I was just reflecting the other day that probably, and the Buddha developed those, let's say, quite quickly. He followed his teachers, developing the arupa jhanas, the formless absorptions to the highest level, number 4. But the Buddha said, this doesn't lead to awakening either. And he even did one higher than that. He developed, these teachers developed 8 jhanas. The Buddha developed 9. Had to go one further, you see. So he was probably, this is my speculation here, he was probably the most advanced meditator in the whole world. Yeah, the most evolved or most developed meditator. Not only did he develop the absorptions, very high levels of concentration, but in his insight meditation, he could penetrate through, to awakening, reflecting upon causality, and he also was able to develop, or he had the experience of the 3, remember the 3 knowledges? He could experience his own, his previous habitations, previous lives, you can say. And while at least the Semitic religions anyway today, they can perceive one lifetime in the future, heaven or hell. The Buddha perceived endless lifetimes, endless, not just 1, not 2, not 3, not 5, endless lifetimes he could perceive. So very, very deep meditation. Can anybody even perceive 1 lifetime? Well, it's only halfway through the Vasa. We got time yet. And then he could also perceive other people's lifetimes too, very, very profound, very deep meditations, you see. So anyway, the Buddha had very, very deep concentration and deep insight. So he realized when he's in his practice that this jhana was not dangerous. So remembering his first two teachers, he began to use this deep absorption, deep collectedness as a basis for investigation, say for insight. So he realized that some kind of, you say, otherworldly pleasure was all right. That was very controversial at the time. No pleasant feeling is good. It's all dangerous, you see. But he said, no. This deep levels of absorption, were allowed. He even encouraged the monks. He said this, the practice of jhana should be encouraged and developed. And people who are able to develop some degree of deep levels of calmness or collectedness of mind, they do experience an otherworldly joy and peace, which is otherworldly. So when you do that, you recognize that the joy or the peace or happiness of the world is very, very minor. It's not very important. So instead of being addicted to worldly pleasant feeling, it's all right to become somewhat addicted to unworldly pleasant feeling. Yeah, if you can speak of addictions. But the Buddha did have a sort of a cover for it, a caveat, that you should also, after you come out of absorption, to reflect. This is only a conditioned state. Due to your intention, due to your willpower, due to your energy and focused attention, you attain to this deep levels of absorption, but it's all conditioned. There's still somebody meditating. Even in very, very deep levels of concentration or collectedness, there's still a sense, very, very minor sense of a self doing it. So you go into it, but you have to come out of it again, and you still have a self. Okay, the self, you can say, is much attenuated because now you say desires or attachment for more refined pleasures. So, now chocolate is not so delicious as absorption. So maybe you can leave these worldly attachments behind easier, you see. And likewise, with unpleasant feeling, the practitioners in India at the time, they used unpleasant feeling or self-mortification as a way of purifying their karma. The Buddha said that doesn't work. That's a wrong view, actually. Because, you can say that the person is thinking like, I am torturing myself to purify my karma. You see all the identification there? I am torturing my body for my karma, you see. So you increase your identification.
3 times.
Yeah. 3 times, yeah. When you do self-mortification, because it's very, very, very subjective, But the Buddha realized that, when you have unpleasant feeling, it's just like an instinct. It's not personal. Even though you put yourself in unpleasant or uncomfortable situations, but the feeling is just a factor of conditions. You sit there, your leg is painful, yeah. But if you change your posture, it goes. Yeah. You aren't making it. It's the way the body is situated, you see. So it's just a condition of life, you can say. So to reflect upon it that way, when you notice the unpleasant feeling, and you can also notice, if you study unpleasant feeling, it's not self-mortification. You're studying unpleasant feeling, right? Trying to observe it carefully, you can notice that it changes with the condition of your mind. Feeling is in the mind. Feeling is a mental state. It seems like it's in the body, for example, a lot of it. The pain is in your knee or something, but it's in your mind. The body feels a strong sensation and the mind says, ouch. So if you change your state of mind, you notice that if your mind has more collectedness and samadhi, then you can even override the pain, override the unpleasant feeling, because your mind is in a different state. If you are feeling emotionally somewhat restless, mind is not very collected, then slightest little ache is painful, extra painful. When your mind is collected, you can endure lots of varieties of discomfort. I wouldn't push it too far, because the body still is experiencing unpleasant sensation, you see, a stressful sensation, so you could do damage to the body. But it shows you how changeable and subjective feeling is. Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. It's very, very subjective. So anyway, the Buddha points out to try and observe these feelings. The point is to just observe them. Remember the instructions for mindfulness: non-judgmental awareness. Hopefully you've got good training already with body awareness, body sensation. Bodily sensation, most of us don't push it too much. Huh? Yeah. But just try to observe feelings objectively, non-judgmentally. Most of us have so much investment in feeling. I want to feel good. I don't want to feel bad. Maybe it's a lot more. It's more subtle, more challenging to be able to just observe them without reacting to them. And like I say, feelings are very, very instinctive. So you may notice already. You can notice, say, unpleasant feeling. You may notice, you bring your awareness back to the body again. You notice the tension in the body. Body tensing up with unpleasant feeling. So to be able to observe it more carefully, you have to relax the body, relax the mind, be able to look again at the feeling, relax, to be able to go into it. And if you really relax, you can begin to see the feeling just as a particular experience, without the subjectivity coloring it, you see. It's possible, yeah. With the development of mindfulness, you see. And it's, the feelings are very, very at the basis of our motivation in life. So feelings are behind the holding on to views and opinions, for example. Whatever you like, you believe that's good for you. You see? Whatever gives you experience of pleasant feeling, you believe in it. You hold certain views about things. That person's a nice person because they were kind to me. When I was with them, they gave me a pleasant feeling tone, so they're good people. Somebody else says, what? Yeah. When I experienced them, they weren't very kind to me. They gave me an unpleasant feeling. So, depends on your experience, your pleasant or unpleasant experience of feeling, you see, in all situations. So anyway, the Buddha quite controversially encouraged the development of unworldly pleasant feeling. So in the absorptions, deep absorptions, joy, piti, sukha, joy and well-being are two of the factors of the first two absorptions, you see. It's also a factor of awakening, joy. And even in I mentioned about the progressive path of practice, there was morality and contentment, and before developing mindfulness, well, there's also a certain joy of contentment with requisites. One is content with them. And then there is certain joy arises when one is keeping the precepts, one is blameless. And then there is, of course, the Buddha even defined nibbana as nibbanang sukhang, nibbanang paranang sukhang. The supreme well-being is nibbana. So, Venerable Analayo even goes to the point of saying that, if you summarize all these, it seems that the Buddha's teachings is really a path of the perfection of joy. even though we talk about suffering so much, but good to hear this, isn't it? It's there's joy all along the way, you know, somewhere sprinkled in there. Keeping the precepts isn't easy sometimes, but it can give rise to joy. Good to keep it in mind. Contentment, not having supper in the evening, you know, may seem suffering sometime, but, you know, it's also there's some joy in that of, no dishes to wash. No. So and if you're observing the feelings, say this is a very, very helpful point of reference to be able to perceive or be mindful of the states of mind as well. So as I mentioned, there's vinyan, just bare knowing. Then there is feeling. Then there is sanya. Then there is sankhara. Sankhara is states of mind, mental activities. You see. So I think I mentioned when I talked about mindfulness practice in general, I mentioned about how there was sort of a progression in refinement. Body awareness, feeling, states of mind. Not only are there more of each of them, you know, like you say, there's one body, 6 feelings. There's 16 states of mind, the Buddha points out. And then there's 30, what did I say? 33 Dhammas, I think it is, or something or other. You know. But there's also refinement. You know, sensations are reasonably obvious, feelings a little bit more subtle, states of mind, pretty fast, huh? So being aware of feelings can be an opening to states of mind. Basically, maybe I shouldn't tell you, but I mean, just I have to open to it somehow. So when you notice pleasant states of mind, pleasant feeling tone, what states of mind might arise? Greed, I want it. Unpleasant states of mind, unpleasant feeling tone, give rise to what kind of states of mind? Aversion. And neutral feeling tones, what do they give rise to? Ignorance. I don't know. Neutral is sort of I don't know, is it? Delusion. Yeah. So you have greed, aversion, delusion coming from feeling tones. So very fertile ground there for investigation. So we come to states of mind. This is chitta anupassana. And you know, many people translate chitta as mind, but it literally means the content. Because in the Buddha's teachings, there is no mind. Got that? No mind, emptiness. No. There's a brain, but there's mental activity. There's no thing called mind. Can anybody show your mind? You know, what's your mind? But you can show the states of mind, you know, the content of your mind, which we do with emotions, you see. Just observing somebody's facial expressions, you can tell what's on their mind sometimes, whether they're frowning or smiling or whatever, you know. So chitta means states of mind or content of the mind. And the Buddha just points out in this discourse on mindfulness, he points out 8 pairs or 16 states of mind. However, I would say they're just a general kind of outline of states of mind. I mean, there's more than 16, you know. Or you can say, well, all the other states of mind are sort of permutations of these, you know, like greed, all kinds of greed, different variations of greed, aversion, all kinds of variations on it. And they're sort of general, like one of them is, you know, the great mind or the narrow mind. You can fill in the blanks, a lot of blanks there. What's a great mind? What's a narrow mind? So again, to be able to develop mindfulness, which means a non-judgmental awareness of states of mind. And it sounds simple, but, you know, as practitioners probably realize it's not quite so simple. You're using a state of mind to observe your states of mind. So it's very easy to get pulled into your states of mind. You get caught in the judgmental awareness. Well, that's an interesting state of mind. That really shows how intelligent I am. That one's a stupid state of mind. I better forget that. But again, if you're developing mindfulness with regard to the body, the sensation of breathing, they're more neutral experiences. So hopefully your mind has been sharpened and stabilized, and then you can observe more clearly maybe the states of mind that arise. And these 8 pairs basically are arranged into what are skillful states of mind and unskillful states of mind. Again, the Buddha is pointing out, as we go back to the theme last week, kamma, action and result. The ethical aspect of it is what is skillful and what is unskillful. It's helpful to cultivate the skillful action, not helpful to create the unskillful action. Likewise, your state of mind too. You have to recognize what is a skillful state of mind, what's an unskillful state of mind. Otherwise, your mind's all over the place and you end up cultivating the wrong state of mind. You end up creating aversion, for example, rather than forgiveness or friendliness or something. But when you recognize, aversion, anger is not a very skillful state of mind. It's related to unpleasant feeling tone, related to tension in the body, not skillful. Yeah. So a certain degree of wisdom arises, and then why go there? Why do it? Just harming yourself. Like something like aversion, people think, by being angry at somebody, they're hurting that person. They're hurting themselves much more, making themselves sick, right? Remember the result of certain attitudes of mind in the future? If you're angry, you're born ugly. Remember that one? Yeah, so do you want to be born ugly? Well, at least you won't have the girls or boys chasing you anyway. So the Buddha gives these 8 pairs. Like I say, these are just general outline of give you some opening maybe to it, to your state of mind. Because, I don't know, some people, when you say state of mind, they just say, what? They're so lost in their mind, they can't distinguish a state of mind, because all the states all merge together, right? It's one country, it's not a state. It's not 10 states. How many states in Australia? 6, 7, 8? 8, okay. Okay. It's not 8 states, it's one country. One big messy mind. 8 states and 8 pairs. 8 pairs of states of mind to be aware of. Minds, it must be Tasmania. Oops, I shouldn't be prejudiced, should I? So anyway, the first 3 states of mind are greed, aversion, delusion. I think probably most of us have some inkling, some kind of idea what greed, aversion, delusion are, right? Yeah. So if you happen to notice in your mind it arising, you may recognize, okay, right, and be able to distinguish it. Again, this requires some degree of developing a non-judgmental awareness and collectedness, because we are usually very prejudiced about what we see in our mind. Yeah? If you see greed there, maybe you probably chase after it. Huh? But my life is boring right now. Maybe a little bit of greed will spice it up. It's even encouraged in society, isn't it? I remember seeing some advertisement somewhere, and they talk about the people going off to go do shopping. They don't call it greed. They don't even call it consumerism. They call it retail therapy. It's good for you. Retail therapy is good for you. It's not greed. It's not even consuming the limited resources of the planet. It's retail therapy. So, I feel relieves my guilt now. But when you recognize, this pull in your body and your feelings, well, okay, you get some understanding now what's actually going on there. Greed, you notice greed can be an unskillful state of mind because there's no end to it. It stirs up your excitement, and once you go and you get you buy something, for example, you get you take something, you satisfy your greed to some degree, not really satisfying, is it? Not completely. You get gratified, but not satisfied. Yeah. So how often can you follow that trail and just being let down each time, again and again and again? You say, okay, maybe I should let go of this greed business. Maybe I need less therapy and more meditation. Not just therapy, but meditation. Enlightenment rather than just therapy. And then, of course, the opposites, there are 8 pairs, so greed, aversion, delusion, and non-greed. What's non-greed? What's the experience of non-greed? In your mind, in your feeling tone, in your body. What about non-aversion? What's the experience? It's more like a total experience then, not just an intellectual one. I mean, we can have our theories about it, right? The Buddha said, you should have metta, not aversion, but what's the experience for you in your body and your feeling tone? And non-delusion. Your mind is clear and bright, and you have insight. Sometimes delusion can be kind of pleasant. Huh? It's before you fall asleep. Huh? But you look at it again, and you see, well, the mind is dull. There's neutral feeling there. The body feels lethargic. It's not the best experience. It has its benefits, but not a very really all-round positive experience. So with those three of them, the greed, aversion, delusion, there's obviously unskillful, and then non-greed, non-aversion, non-delusion are skillful, and then he adds another pair. The contracted or distracted mind. And maybe I would say like, instead of distracted, I don't know, forget what the Pali word is, but contracted or more, I would say a bit more expansive. And you can notice it's a bit general, less specific. Greed usually focusing on something, aversion focusing on something. But a contracted state of mind, what's that? Notice how your mind does feel kind of closed in and maybe, a bit, the body's a bit lethargic, contracted, not very useful. Or it's too effusive, too spread out. Dispersed, I think dispersal maybe is better. Contracted and dispersed. Basically, the contracted mind doesn't have much energy in it. The dispersed mind has too much energy. So you need to find a very careful balance, As the Buddha's talked about, the balancing of the spiritual powers, for example. Not too contracted. I mean, you need focused attention, but not too contracted. If your mind is too narrowed in, you aren't able to observe very, very clearly. You aren't able to have much mindfulness, especially of arising and passing away. If the mind is too dispersed, same thing. There's no energy contained there, no focused attention. Your attention is spread around. But to be able to recognize that, because it is just a very, you'd say, universal or common pair, or, a state of mind which is paired, something contracted or dispersed, And then Buddha talks about there's now 4 what are called the kind of developed or very advanced states of mind. The great mind or the narrow mind. And the great mind, the word great maha, was used in the development of, say, the 4 Brahma Viharas. The mind is very expansive, highly developed and very, very expansive, to spread around metta, friendliness. You need to be spread it around to be expansive. And then the narrow mind. You can say basically, maybe you say narrow mind is very, very self-centered, very, very focused on the self rather than beyond the greater mind. Then there's the surpassable mind and the unsurpassable mind. The surpassable mind is also advanced stage, sort of used in reference to developing the levels of absorption. There's 4 levels, or you can say 9 if you want. So first absorption, it can be surpassed by more collectedness. Recognize there is some degree of collectedness in the mind. It can be developed and can be increased. The unsurpassable mind usually refers to the 4th absorption, but sometimes to full awakening. The mind that's unsurpassable. Nothing can be added to it. And then there is the concentrated mind and the unconcentrated mind. It just makes very, very easy to understand. The mind has focused attention or not focused attention. And then, of course, the last one is liberated mind. Anybody notice that yet? Liberated mind? Maybe for a moment, just when the bell rings after the meditation. That moment here, sometimes you can maybe your mind is wandering and then the bell rings and just for a moment, just blankness. I wouldn't know is that liberated or not? Maybe it's just surpassable or great, maybe. Don't know, but maybe you can say, well, it's liberated from your wandering mind anyway for a moment. And then suddenly everything clicks in, and oh yes, right. The next thing that's happening now, the bell's rung, so then we got to do the puja, and yeah. But these 2 themes, it takes some development. You can recognize feeling tones, states of mind. Maybe start off with one first. Start off with feeling tones first this week. You can advance to states of mind next week, maybe. Yeah. But of course, in the direct experience, and it's not really so, I would say, so pigeonholed, is it? It's hard to just say, just only be aware of breathing, for example. Huh? Only breathing, and then there's a thought comes in. Oops, that's the 3rd theme. I can't do that one yet. I have to go back to breathing. I got to stay on mindfulness of breathing for the first 3 weeks. But maybe the main theme of your awareness, is sensations in the body or the breathing. See? And maybe during the course of one, your experiences perhaps they do change. Sometimes the feeling tone becomes stronger than the sensation of breathing, right? If you're sitting there for a long time, maybe the feeling tone. So rather than ignore the feeling, the unpleasant feeling, maybe the pain in the body, bring your attention to it now. And with this background, these instructions here, you can be aware of it. It becomes part of the meditation rather than a distraction from meditation. Initially, it can become a distraction from focusing on the breathing, but maybe in the beginning, you just have to try to, remember that teaching about distracting thoughts, you just kind of ignore it for a while until it's too annoying, and try and stay with the breathing. But now, when you have these instructions, you can include. Okay, the main theme is focusing on breathing, but if the unpleasant feeling tone arises, you can move your attention to that. Try to observe it, and maybe in the beginning, you can use it as a theme to investigate, but then back to breathing again. If you find yourself reacting to the feelings, then you're losing mindfulness, losing collectedness. Back to breathing again to establish the attention on the breathing, settle the mind in mindfulness and collectedness. Then maybe you can go back to the feeling again. Observe again, internally, externally, arising and passing feelings, tones, states of mind. Sometime maybe feeling tone, and then you notice a reaction, tensing up in the body, in a sense of mind's being contracted now. State of mind. You can recognize, oh, it is a state of mind now, triggered off by feeling tone, which comes from the sensation in the body, and so we're actually putting it all together. So it's like, here's our experience. It's a very, very broad palette, but if we try and be aware of everything, it's too much. Most people aren't able to be aware of so many different aspects of their experience, so you just get confused. But the Buddha is saying now, it's like taking a template now and, okay, just move that over here. Look at the bodily sensations first. And then, okay, now expand it to feelings now. And then states of mind now. And then we still have the Dhammas to go yet. A later theme. So the states of mind, the next theme is the Dhammas. There are 5 different themes, hindrances, the 5 groups of grasping. Yeah. They come out of states of mind. These are particular states of mind. The hindrances and the factors of awakening, for example. So if you're not clear about the states of mind, it's hard to be able to observe the various Dhammas then. But just to be able to get some understanding, some mindfulness, ideally, non-judgmental awareness gives rise to wisdom. Oh, I understand it now. I see what the feeling tones are like, arising and passing, triggering off states of mind, skillful, unskillful states of mind. And then if your mind becomes too dispersed, back to the breathing again, to recognize that a more focused attention is useful. Otherwise, easy to get pulled into states of mind, for example. So gradually putting it all together, maybe by the end of the retreat, we'll have it all together, and we'll know what the liberated state of mind is. Maybe. Depends on your diligence. So I'll leave that for your contemplation this time.